Hello, everyone. Let me ask you something. Have you ever received a letter that cost you thousands of dollars before you even opened it? Not because you forgot to pay a bill, not because you broke a law, not because you made a mistake, just because a system somewhere made a decision about you without ever having a conversation with you first. That sounds impossible, but it's happening more often than most people realize. And it's happening to a lot of older Americans right now. One retiree spent more than 20 years in the same home, paid every insurance premium on time, never filed a major claim, never missed a payment. One day she opened her mailbox and found a notice from her insurance company. The letter said her roof needed to be replaced. If it wasn't replaced within a certain period of time, her coverage could be canceled. The problem? Nobody had ever come to inspect the roof, no appointment, no contractor, no inspector, no conversation. The decision had been made using aerial images. Images captured from above her property and analyzed by software she didn't even know existed. And that story is not unique anymore. In fact, it points to something much bigger. There are several changes happening right now that are quietly affecting retirees across the country. Some involve insurance companies. Some involve banks. Some involve traffic laws. Some involve automated systems that can take action before you even realize something has changed. None of these situations involve criminal activity. None involve obvious mistakes. Most of the people affected are responsible people who believed they were following the rules. The problem is that the rules changed, and nobody explained the changes. Today, I want to walk through 4 developments that are catching seniors off guard in 2026. Not to scare you, not to create panic, simply so you know what is happening before it happens to you. And before we begin, if you appreciate straightforward explanations without the drama and the fear tactics, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. My goal is simple: help you avoid expensive surprises. Because retirement is stressful enough without discovering a new rule after it has already cost you money. Let's start with the one that surprises homeowners the most, is CTNON, the roof inspection you never knew happened. For decades, most homeowners understood how insurance inspections worked. Someone would call, an appointment would be scheduled, an inspector would arrive, you would probably be home. They would walk around the property, maybe take a few photos, then they'd leave. That mental picture is still how many people think the system works. But in many cases, it doesn't. Today, some insurance companies are using aerial photography, satellite imagery, and AI-powered analysis systems to evaluate homes without ever setting foot on the property. Imagine sitting in your living room drinking coffee. Meanwhile, an image taken from above your home is being reviewed by software looking for signs of risk. Damaged shingles, tree branches touching the roof, moss growth, standing debris, signs of wear. The software creates a report. That report may influence whether your policy is renewed, whether repairs are demanded, or whether premiums increase. What makes this difficult for many homeowners is that they often have no idea the review occurred. There's no phone call, no knock on the door, no warning. Just a letter if the system identifies a problem. And like every technology, these systems aren't perfect. Consumer advocates have documented situations where solar panels were mistaken for roof damage. Properties were incorrectly identified. Vegetation from neighboring lots was included in reports. In one widely discussed case, a homeowner claimed images from another property were used during the evaluation process. Now, to be fair, insurance companies argue these systems help identify risk more efficiently and keep costs lower. And there is some logic to that. But from a homeowner's perspective, especially someone living on a fixed retirement income, receiving a demand for thousands of dollars in repairs without knowing how the decision was made can be deeply frustrating. Here's the practical takeaway. If you own a home, consider contacting your insurance carrier and asking a simple question. Has my property been evaluated using aerial imagery, satellite photography, drone technology, or AI analysis? And if so, were any concerns identified? That one phone call could answer questions before they become problems. Because it's always easier to deal with an issue before a cancellation notice arrives than after. And unfortunately, insurance isn't the only place where automated systems are making decisions. The next one involves your own bank account. And for some retirees, it can temporarily prevent access to their own money, SHEANTTBO, when your bank can legally freeze your transaction. Let me paint a picture. Suppose your grandson is buying his first home. You decide to help with the down payment. You log into your bank account. You initiate a large transfer. Everything seems normal. Then nothing happens. The money doesn't move. The transaction is frozen. You call the bank. The representative explains they're conducting a review. You become frustrated. You know the transfer is legitimate. You authorized it. It's your money. Why can't you access it? The answer surprises many people. Because in a growing number of situations, financial institutions are legally permitted to delay transactions involving older adults if they suspect financial exploitation may be occurring. The intention is good. Financial fraud targeting seniors is a real problem. Banks are under increasing pressure to identify suspicious activity before money disappears. But the challenge is that the system cannot always distinguish between a scam and a perfectly legitimate transaction. To the software, an unusual transfer is simply unusual. It doesn't know your grandson. It doesn't know your plans. It only sees behavior that differs from your historical pattern. And once a review begins, delays can occur. This creates a strange reality. The system designed to protect you can sometimes temporarily inconvenience you. That's why one of the smartest things retirees can do right now is designate a trusted contact person on their financial accounts. Someone the bank can call. Someone who can quickly confirm a transaction is legitimate. A process that might otherwise take days can sometimes be resolved in minutes. Think of it as creating an emergency contact for your finances. You hope it's never needed. But if it is needed, you'll be glad it's already there. And speaking of changes that most people don't realize have happened, let's talk about something that affects almost every senior who still drives. Because the law many drivers think they understand is not quite the same law that exists today. As Section 3, the driving law most people think they already understand. Let me ask you a question. If you were driving down the highway tomorrow and saw a vehicle stopped on the shoulder with its hazard lights flashing, what would you do? Most experienced drivers would probably give the same answer. Slow down a little. Be careful. Keep moving. And for many years, that answer was usually enough. But in several states, the rules have changed. And what surprises many retirees is that they never heard about those changes. The move-over law originally focused on emergency vehicles, police cars, fire trucks, ambulances, tow trucks in some states. The idea was simple. Protect the people working on the side of the road. Most drivers understood that. If you saw flashing emergency lights, you changed lanes when possible or reduced your speed. But over the last few years, several states quietly expanded those laws. Now in some places, the protection extends beyond emergency responders. A vehicle with hazard lights, a stranded motorist, a disabled vehicle, even certain service and maintenance vehicles. The law may require you to move over or reduce speed significantly. Not a little, significantly. And here's the problem. Most people are still driving according to the version of the law they learned years ago, not the version that exists today. Imagine you're driving home from visiting your grandchildren. You see a vehicle stopped on the shoulder. Hazard lights are blinking. You ease off the accelerator slightly. Maybe drop 5 miles per hour. You believe you're being careful. Then weeks later, a citation arrives. Or worse, you're stopped by law enforcement and discover that your understanding of the law is outdated. That doesn't make you reckless. It doesn't make you irresponsible. It simply means nobody told you the rules changed. This matters because many older drivers are among the safest drivers on the road. They're attentive. They maintain following distance. They avoid aggressive driving. But they also spend a lot of time in the right lane. And the right lane happens to be the lane closest to where these situations occur. The practical takeaway is simple. If you see a vehicle stopped on the shoulder, especially with hazard lights activated, assume the safest response is to move over if possible. If moving over isn't possible, reduce speed substantially. Not symbolically. Substantially. The exact requirements vary by state. But the cost of assuming the old rules still apply can be surprisingly expensive. And speaking of expensive surprises, let's talk about something that doesn't involve being pulled over at all. Because the next issue can generate a ticket without a single interaction with a police officer. Section 4. The camera doesn't care about your explanation. I want you to think about the last time you drove through a construction zone. Orange signs, narrow lanes, traffic shifting left and right, workers, equipment, maybe a navigation app talking in your ear. Maybe rain. Maybe you're trying to watch traffic while figuring out where the lane actually goes. It's not difficult to imagine missing a sign, especially if you've been driving for decades and most of your attention is focused on safety. Now imagine receiving a ticket 3 weeks later, not from a police officer, not from a traffic stop, just a letter in the mail, a photograph, a speed calculation, a fine. That's becoming increasingly common. Automated enforcement cameras have expanded significantly, and they operate very differently than traditional enforcement. A police officer can see context. A police officer can exercise discretion. A camera doesn't. The camera records. The computer calculates. The citation is generated, and the notice is mailed. Many retirees are surprised by this because they never had a conversation. No warning, no explanation, no opportunity to say, I honestly didn't realize the speed limit changed. The system isn't designed for conversation. It's designed for enforcement. Construction zones create a unique challenge. Temporary speed limits often appear before the work area actually begins. You may still see open lanes. You may not yet see workers. The road may look perfectly normal. But legally, the reduced speed limit is already in effect. And cameras are often positioned after the reduction begins, not where the road work ends. not where it becomes obvious, where the reduced limit starts. That's why so many otherwise careful drivers get caught. They're reacting to what they see. The law is reacting to what the sign said. Those aren't always the same thing. If there's one practical habit worth adopting, it's this. The moment you see the first construction sign announcing a reduced speed limit, adjust your speed immediately. Not later, not when you see workers, not when lanes narrow, immediately. Then maintain that speed until you see the sign indicating the work zone has officially ended. It sounds simple, but small habits like that can prevent hundreds of dollars in unnecessary fines. And here's the bigger lesson. The systems affecting retirees today are becoming increasingly automated. Insurance companies use software. Banks use monitoring algorithms. Traffic enforcement uses cameras. None of those systems know your intentions. They only know what they detect. Which brings us to something important. How do you protect yourself in a world where more decisions are being made automatically? Section 5. A simple retirement protection checklist. Whenever I cover topics like this, someone usually asks me the same question. Okay, Uncle John, what should I actually do? That's a fair question. Because awareness is helpful, but action is what protects you. So let me give you a simple checklist. Nothing complicated. Nothing expensive. Just practical steps. First, call your homeowner's insurance company. Ask whether any aerial inspections or remote property evaluations have been performed. Ask if any concerns have been noted. 10 minutes on the phone could prevent an unpleasant surprise later. Second, add a trusted contact to every financial account you own. Not next month. Not someday. This week. Choose someone responsible. Someone who answers their phone. Someone you trust. If a transaction is flagged, that person may save you days or weeks of frustration. Third, review your state's driving laws. Not the laws you remember, the laws that exist right now. Especially move-over laws and work zone regulations. Many state agencies publish updated summaries online that take only a few minutes to review. Fourth, treat every construction zone as if enforcement is active. Because increasingly it is. Even if you don't see a police vehicle. Even if you don't see workers. Even if the road looks clear. Assume the camera is already watching. And finally, get comfortable asking questions. One of the biggest advantages retirees have is experience. You've seen enough in life to know that assumptions can be expensive. If a rule seems unclear, ask. If a letter seems confusing, call. If something doesn't feel right, investigate. Because many of the people who end up paying these costs aren't careless. They're simply operating with outdated information. And that's a very fixable problem. Final theft. 7. I want to leave you with one final idea. Most of the financial mistakes that hurt retirees today don't come from bad decisions. They come from invisible changes. A policy changes. A law expands. A system becomes automated. A procedure shifts. And nobody bothers to explain it until after someone gets caught by it. That's why staying informed matters so much. Not because you need to become an expert in insurance law. Not because you need to memorize banking regulations. Not because you need to spend your retirement worrying. Quite the opposite. The more you understand, the less you have to worry about. Knowledge creates peace of mind. And peace of mind is one of the most valuable things retirement can offer. So sometime this week, choose one item from today's discussion. Just one. Call your insurance company. Add a trusted contact. Review your state's driving rules. Pick one. Small actions today often prevent large problems tomorrow. And remember, most expensive surprises don't arrive because you're careless. They arrive because nobody told you the rules changed. Now somebody did. If you found this helpful, consider sharing it with a friend, a neighbor, or a family member. Because chances are they haven't heard about these changes either. Take care of yourself. Take care of the people you love. And I'll see you in the next video.